Welcome to this session on sales conversations. It's part of a series that I'm running on human led conversations and human led sales. And this one's about selling without a script and how we can connect, calibrate, and convert without performing. Before we get started, I would love you just to pay attention to how you're arriving in this space. Are you feeling overworked? Are you feeling relaxed? Are you on fire? Are you sat chilling with a cup of coffee? I want to welcome you into this space as we start to focus on feeling grounded, in connection, and selling with clarity and calm. This is about less push and more presence. The idea behind this session, where we're going to look at customer lenses, really came from a session that I ran on communication styles and the feedback that I had from that people would like more on active listening. So what we're going to run through today are those key areas that build trust, and that's based on a poll that I ran. I'm going to look at meta programs for CS and sales. There are numerous meta programs. I'm just going to look at 5. And then the universality of what one of my mentors calls cave person problems. And finish up with the caveats to all of that and calibration. So before we get started, to give you a bit more context, I am sure that in your sales journey, you've been told about active learning, matching, mirroring, repeating back the last words of a sentence. And I'm not going to tell you not to do that. If anything, this is a deeper layer of listening to the metaphors and the meta patterns behind what is being said. So I asked the question, which one of these builds most trust? Is it a calm energy in a sales or CS person, knowing that they're coming with a clear structure, knowing that the solution has proven results, or their understanding of a prospect's company? And almost as soon as I put this out, I wish that last one had just said understanding a prospect and not their company. The results were pretty overwhelming. Like, sometimes post a poll and it doesn't get much traction. This had over 380 responses between the CS and sales groups. The clear winner was understanding the prospects companies. So as we come into this, I'm going to assume that there's some research that's already been done. Then it was a mix up between that calm energy and clear structure. And that tells me that there's an importance on how you show up and that level of professionalism and the guidance that you can give a prospect through your buying process or through that meeting structure. They know they're being held by a professional. What was interesting is that at 20 and 11%, the results that you actually get didn't seem to be that as important as the understanding and how you show up. And this reminded me of the Stephen Covey quote that I'm sure you've heard. If you have been in any sales training, this comes up, and it is habit number 5 of 7 habits of highly successful people. Seek first to understand, then be understood. So today we're going to look at another layer that helps us understand our prospects. So meta programs are just one of those. And I want to caveat this and say I'm not an NLP practitioner. And in fact, when I've looked at NLP, I've often found that I feel quite resistant against it. And I feel like there's a lot of generalizations or borrowed wisdom, and it's off-putting to me. However, as a professional coach, I undertake a whole bunch of CPD and I look at different things and how they can be used to help my clients. Every so often, I come across a concept and a light bulb goes off, and I think this would be amazingly useful to revenue professionals, sales, CS, account management, and the enabler in me can't help but want to share this. So let's start with an introduction to meta programs at quite a high level. Before we do that, I want to jump into a quick experiment. Think about your career. Which one of these sentences resonates most? Don't pay too much attention to it. There's no wrong answer and no judgment. A, I'm working towards my goal. Or B, I'm trying to avoid burnout. I'll come back to you as to why I've asked that question in just a moment, but this is an example of an underlying meta pattern. And meta patterns can be defined as mental processes that manage, guide, and direct other mental processes. That's the definition given by the Institute of Applied Psychology. And what makes it meta is that we are talking about processes guiding other processes. When I worked in adult education, we would talk about metacognition, which was thinking about thinking. And that's what made that meta. Meta programs also govern the way people filter their perception of the world, what they emit, what they include, what they pay attention to. And NLP practitioners often think of meta patterns as a directional language of the mind. And today I'd like you to think of them as the lens through which somebody sees their problem and, by extension, your solution. So to kick off, let's look at 5 meta programs that are useful within a SaaS sales environment. There are many. So Leslie Cameron Brandler identified as many as 60. And in his book, Figuring People Out, Michael Hall identifies 51. I also want to highlight that meta patterns are not fixed, and they're not even fixed to one individual. I think up until the 90s, there was a lot of literature that said that they don't shift in people. And then beyond that, people are like, actually, they do, and they are contextual. So if you meet somebody in one context that has a fixed pattern, it's unlikely that will carry across to another context. And stuff might happen over the course of their lifetime, which allows people to try on a new meta pattern and ultimately change if it fits. So going into the first one, and when I asked you that question, were you driven towards your goals or away from burnout? That was an example of motivation direction. Towards pleasure, away from pain. So when we're speaking to our prospects, we want to listen to how they are framing their desired outcome. Are they motivated towards achieving gains? So increased efficiency, increased growth, it will allow them to bring something new into being within their organization. Or are they motivated from avoiding pain? They want to reduce risk, reduce churn. Think about cybersecurity. That is normally in that area of pain reduction. So for those towards clients, we really want to highlight the benefits of everything our solution can bring them. And for those away clients, we want to focus on the risk mitigation, the safety, and knowing that they will be held by competent technology, backed and surrounded by competent teams. Second up, I want to talk about frame of reference. Are they internally trusting or externally validating? So if somebody is internal, then they trust their own judgment to make that decision. That means that they want to have a hands-on experience of your product, your solution. That's demos. That's like great for having a freemium model where you can try it before you upgrade. If they are external decision makers, then that's where they get their trust from. It's other people's opinions and expert reviews. So think about, are you able to put reviews in front of people, case studies? What about white papers or reference documents? These are the people that at that high level might want to have a reference call with an existing customer. Knowing whether somebody is internally or externally referenced also helps you adjust your persuasion style and bring in those different tools. Number 3, how do they sort benefits? For some buyers, they are going to look at your SaaS or your tech solution and how it benefits them as an individual or their team, while others are going to be looking far more widely at what's the impact on other teams, How does it really get integrated into that business? And what's going to be the wider impact on the business or the end users of that company? So when you're working with sorting style, think about what are the benefits to an individual, the team, the company, and the customers of that company. That will allow you to respond in the moment to self versus other orientation of your prospect and what you hear as you connect with them. Number 4, decision-making strategy. You have 2 quarters here, or 2 halves. Those that want to know all the options and those that want to know there is a clear procedure. So if we're looking at those option-oriented clients, they want to see the whole range of features and all the packages. If you think about those tables that appear on many a SaaS website that have the features and the price bands, that's the type of information that you want to have available to those option-driven customers. On the flip side, you have your procedure-orientated buyers, and they want to know that there is a clear step-by-step onboarding or implementation process. And these are the people that we want to put a roadmap in front of, a mutual action plan, something that shows what is for now, what is next, and what might be later. And when we think about objection handling and blockers to a deal with those procedure driven people, it's really important that we have asked about their company priorities. What might get in the way of this deal and derail it? And knowing that will help you forecast more accurately and make sure that you can put the right thing in front of them at the right time. And to get that information honestly, we're going to look at connection in a bit. So the last meta program that I want to share with you today is view orientation as a big picture oriented or detail oriented. So in my last talk that I did on communication styles, the big picture people might also be our sunshine yellows. They want the vision and that overall strategic value. Whereas our detail-oriented people are likely to be more on the blue side of that matrix. They want technical detail, they want integrations, they want pricing, and to know exactly what they're walking into and how long it's going to take to get set up and how much of a lift it's going to be to implement your solution within their business. It also might vary with who is on that buying committee, and as a result, who you want to carry with you into your sales committee. Do you need to make sure that you've got a pre-sales consultant or solutions consultant available to support you with giving the requisite detail? So we have looked at 5 different types of meta patterns. And that said, these patterns are going to help you speak in your prospect's language and present your solution in a way that feels familiar and feels grounded in the way that they see the world. But meta programs are not a tool to be used on somebody. They're simply clues that we're using to understand how our prospects navigate the world. These models help us listen deeply. But the real shift happens when we remember that we're already equipped to connect, and the tools just help us to do that with more care. So next up, I want to share what one of my coaching mentors often calls cave person problems. As a coach, these are often the first words that comes out of a client's mouth when they're verbalizing what they want to work on. But they're also universal. So you're going to hear these when you speak to clients, prospects, customers. And that's why I wanted to share some of these metaphors. So let's look at what is going on in this picture. What is the terrain that our prospect is walking through? Are they stuck and they can't work out how to get unstuck? Do they feel blocked? Is there a gap that they cannot traverse? And increasingly, we're seeing that buyers are fearful of mucking up and making the wrong decision. They are fearful of being ostracized from the group when it's the group resources that helps them to survive. So we're seeing a lot of things going on in here which have been problems down the ages and continue to show up in the language that's used when someone's looking for a solution. And these are kind of primal metaphors. We're stuck in limbo. Leadership are just not on the same map. We keep circling back around the same issue. They're not just throwing out objections, they're telling you about their inner world. And when we listen to those metaphors, we get the terrain. They speak to uncertainty, they speak to disconnection, they speak to misalignment. And you're less likely to hear these on a slide deck and more likely to hear them in the room. And it's not really our deal to fix all of these issues, but to help our clients navigate through them and then look at what do we support with. So are we offering them the slingshot that means that they can hunt a little bit more safely from a safe distance, perhaps more efficiently? Are we offering them that solution, the baby sling, where they're like, I can't just stay home and look after this baby. I've got to go gathering. I've got to go hunting. Take the baby with you. You can't move that rock. Here's a wheel. You're worried about that saber-toothed tiger. What about an early warning system? Think about cybersecurity. That's what we're selling as an early warning system. Can we give them a map to help navigate around the problems they're facing right now? Or a scythe to help them cut through the issues that they're facing, or bridge the gap between where they are now and where they want to be and get over that delta. So I've talked about listening at different levels, listening to the meta patterns and listening to those primal cave problems. In summary, both of these are talking about how we can seek to understand first. Within SaaS and tech, our products are fixed, but we're not, and our prospects are not. So this narrative that we tell around that can flex to what we're hearing in the moment. Meta patterns provide a map for positioning that's going to resonate with our prospect. And those universal cave person problems also share that lens of, okay, they feel stuck, or actually they feel like there's a gap here. And that also helps us understand how our prospects are experiencing the world right now. And it is presence that's going to foster trust to the greatest degree, because it's presence that really allows us to listen and understand. That hyper focus on technique can become its own trap. So being able to move in the moment is what prospects will feel. They'll consciously pick up on the difference between being pitched to and being present. So the irony is, you don't need to be perfect to be impactful. You just need to be available and calm enough to hear what's being said and what is not being said, and secure enough to let that conversation breathe. So let's look at a few caveats. I've assumed that there is research done, that you've got an understanding of the industry, the company, the role, and now you can focus on understanding the person. And I wanted to call out that difference between being technique focused or being connection focused, particularly when I'm aware that in this talk, I've thrown a few more things into the mix. And these are suggestions to help you actively listen a little deeper. They're not about adding more stress in, because when we focus on the performance, feeling forced, trying to manipulate, it can also bring us stress. And those stress are just thoughts in the moment. They're not the circumstance. Stress is always optional. When we're connection focused, it allows that stress to drop away a little bit. We can be present, we can be curious, and we can ultimately build trust. Because when we're present, we create that safety and we make it safe for our prospects to share their fears and their vulnerabilities too. Because people are complex, and that fear of buying the wrong thing going through that procurement process or just being lumbered with tech they can't use is real, and it's connection that's going to invite that honest conversation. So I encourage you to let go of the script and make room for honesty. We don't have to fight for attention. We don't have to push and pressure or wear a mask. You don't have to hook them. You just have to meet them where they are. And there is a kind of quiet magic that happens when someone feels like they're truly being listened to, not being analysed, not being closed, but being witnessed. And when your nervous system settles, they can follow your lead. So to sum up, our meta programs can provide the map, a general direction to go in. Our cave person problems are that underlying terrain as to how our prospects experience the world. And it's calibration and meeting them in the moment that is the real compass that we can trust. So bring your maps, but trust your compass. And I invite you to think about over the next week, where is it feeling forced? Where is it feeling like a performance? And how can you let go of that and let connection take over so you can go further? Thank you so much for your time and attention. I have put together a bit of a cheat sheet that runs through both the cave person problems and the 5 meta programs that we covered in here. Do ping me if you would like a copy of this and I'll get it sent to you. Beyond that, I would also love to invite you to a free career review audit as a bit of a thank you from me to you. During that session, we'll take about half an hour to 45 minutes to look at where you are right now, where you would like to be, and what are the things that you can focus on over the next 3 to 6 months, depending on your preferred time window. So all that's left to say is thank you for your attention. If you'd like to continue the conversation, there are a couple of options for you. You can message me directly on LinkedIn, either slide into my email, which is hello@michelleanthony.co.uk, or go to my website and book in a coffee or book in a career audit at michelleanthony.co.uk/meet me. Thank you.